The Neatest Buttonhole, found in Knitting in Plain English by Maggie Righetti. This is a right side horizontal buttonhole worked over one row. The one row means knit to where you're going to start the buttonhole, create the buttonhole, and finish the row. Before you begin, determine how long your buttonhole should be. Compare your button with the number of stitches in your knitting to determine how wide your buttonhole should be. My buttonhole is 4 stitches wide. There are 3 steps to the buttonhole: binding off, casting on, and locking the corner. To begin, we'll start by binding off. I've knit to where I will start my buttonhole sequence. Slip the first stitch on your left needle as if to knit, and bring your yarn forward. And we're going to leave the yarn forward, and this is a very important step. To bind off the next stitch, we will slip as if to knit and bind off our first stitch. 1 stitch bound off. Slip the next stitch as if to knit and bind it off. 2 stitches. Slip the third stitch as if to knit and bind off. 3. And the last stitch, 4. Move the last bound off stitch onto your left hand needle and turn your work. We've bound off the bottom of our buttonhole, and now we're going to start step 2, casting on the top. The cast on that you use is very important. A buttonhole requires a very tight and unforgiving cast on, so the buttonhole stays neat and tidy while you use it. We will be using the purled on cast on, which is like the knitted cast on, but it's purled. The first step is to move your yarn from the back of your work to the front of your work. Insert your right needle into your first left stitch as if to purl, and create a purl stitch. Instead of pulling our purled stitch off the needle like we normally would, we'll slip the purl loop onto the left hand needle, creating our first cast on stitch. To calculate how many stitches to cast on, know how many stitches you bound off and add 1. My buttonhole is 4 stitches wide. I bound off 4 stitches plus 1 is 5 stitches. I'll cast on 5 stitches. Two stitches cast on, 3 stitches cast on, 4 stitches, and my last cast on. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The next step is to turn your work. The third and final step is to lock the corner. So we will be locking the first knit stitch with the last cast on stitch. Move the last cast on stitch onto your left hand needle and slip the knit stitch over the cast on stitch. Move the cast on stitch to your right hand needle and continue knitting the row. You can see that my buttonhole is neat and tidy, 4 stitches wide.